Hello everyone. Well, what a few months it has been. Not only is the human race struggling to get a grip with the largest disruption to mankind since World War II, individual countries are dealing with socio-economic upheaval in the face of race riots, collapse of international and domestic trade, domestic exodus of workforce, and in particular with India, international confrontation. If anyone has not been reading the news recently or has spent the past 3 months in a shell, you may have already guessed that international confrontation is surrounding India's formidable neighbor, the People's Republic of China. Whilst it's not my aim to get into political and strategic commentary on the matter, nevertheless, the impact of all these issues is having an effect on industries. We have been saddled with a situation whereby our government is currently asking us to boycott the use of Chinese goods and services in return for using our own homegrown products and supply. This sounds like a great idea, but it's not as easy as it sounds. Despite national outrage towards China, the fact of the matter is that Chinese goods and services are integral to our textile and apparel supply chain. This is the long and the short of it. When China was initially hit with COVID-19, India faced difficulties in sourcing raw materials and apparel accessories such as buttons, zips, hangers, etc. at the quantity and required price point, either locally or from alternative international markets. A number of intrepid entrepreneurs that are the pride of India felt an opportunity was at hand to fill the supply gap with local production, and the government of India were quick to help a lending hand, abolishing certain anti-dumping duties to encourage local production. Sadly, it wasn't too long before COVID-19 dealt a near fatal blow to India. Effectively crippling domestic industry and market demand destruction took place at a rate never seen before. Now, in response to Chinese aggression on our borders, commentators are actively encouraging the Indian population to boycott Chinese products. Chinese firms vying for large contracts have been usurped for their positions, and the government has for the movement and have banned the use of 59 Chinese-made apps within India. So what is the net result for all these recent calamities? Well, for the moment it will be back to status quo. There are a number of reasons for this. Number one, COVID-19 has swept across the entire world and decimated economies in all of Asia, not least India's. Recessionary pressures are rife and low prices will be paramount for all producers. India's ability to match Chinese quality at par prices remains suspect for now, especially for products for which China enjoys a competitive advantage. Number two, tariffs or renegotiations of existing trade deals with China will not be forthcoming and will be geared towards the current standoff on the border regions. Potential tariffs on Chinese mass market products may force Indian companies to source local at a higher price, causing supply-side inflation, something the economy can ill afford with the recent demand destruction. Number three, if COVID-19 had remained largely restricted to China, then there would have been adequate time and economic opportunity for partial rearrangement of textile supply chains, where India could have improved supply to domestic demand and become a supplier to European and Western markets, who around winter time often visit China to pre-plan production and supply for the following annual seasons. Number four, another two factors which has insulated China is as follows. No sooner had India and the rest of the world got riddled with COVID-19 that China was itself starting to come out of their gigantic lockdown, and Chinese factories in Hubei began ramping up. Coupled with the fact that Chinese manufacturers had already, as they do traditionally, produced spring and summer collections for 2020 well before Chinese New Year. Western and other international markets were already well stocked before the economies actually crashed. The problem is that whilst this would have been a perfect time for India to slide in, simultaneously the rest of the world also fell prey to COVID-19 and priorities changed. From forward planning and change of supplier to outright survival, and India was not able to capitalize on China's temporary shutdown before becoming incapacitated itself. Secondly, the timing had favored China very well. European and Western economies have largely relaxed lockdown now in order to stimulate their economies. The UK just had its first Super Saturday, where pubs and restaurants were allowed to open again, as their economies, many of which were structurally sound prior to COVID, get back onto their feet. They will again come looking and hunting of which supply services serve them best. To India's credit, there is much global rhetoric towards China, and the international community are not happy. It is within the foreseeable future that international markets will want to find a credible alternative to China, whom can produce to the size and scale that is required to meet the customers' needs. India is a nation with a natural entrepreneurial and indomitable spirit with the world's largest international diaspora. It is the only country to actually physically go face to face with the Chinese on the borders, whilst foreign governments comment from afar. It is only India that can match and ultimately replace China as the world's largest production hub, with customer nations that are not finding themselves debt-trapped or inseparably linked to an exploitative regime. In order to make India an alternative for global supply chain, it will require domestic reforms in manufacturing policies, an entire reset of our trade balance with China, and most importantly, for the policymakers to clarify the positions which seem to hover between apparent encouragement to make market entry for foreign firms and covert protectionism. India requires direct fiscal encouragement for the international community and businesses of all sizes to see India as an easy and safe place to move their manufacturing to. We have the silver bullets locked and loaded. Now we must not fear to use them. These thoughts will only turn into actions if we begin interacting positively with each other. So please, leave your comments below and tell me if there's any specific topics you would like to be broadcasted. Take care and please continue to keep safe. Jai Hind.